warm welcome to State of Business on Art Television. I'm Hishain Ali and let's have a look at the headlines first. Expressway bus fare will be reduced by 10 to 20 rupees from midnight today. Prices of air tickets will not be increased even though overflying charges on aircrafts are increased, says Transport Minister. We will begin today's news with the latest information of the presidential election that will be held tomorrow. The presidential election 2019, which will be the 8th presidential election, will be held tomorrow at 12,845 polling stations island-wide. Thus, more than 15.9 million registered voters will be casting their votes tomorrow. The Commission of Elections says that the country traditionally has a high rate of voter participation with more than 15.9 million registered voters in a total population of 21.8 million. During the last presidential election in 2015, voter turnout was 81.5, marking the number as the highest in the region. The significant feature at this election is the voters mark both their first and second reference candidates when casting their ballots. In the case of a runoff, if a single candidate fails to win more than 50% of the vote outright, the second reference votes will be added to the top two candidates' tally to adjudicate a winner. The voting will take place from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. tomorrow. Subsequently, a total number of 60,175 police officers and 8,080 civil defense persons are deployed island-wide for election duties. Meanwhile, relating to the voting process, the Elections Commission states that it is mandatory that electors should carry one of clear, valid and easy identification documents such as the National Identity Card or documents approved by the Election Commission such as the passport, driving license, senior citizens identity card, government pensioners identity card issued to clergy, temporary identity card issued by the Election Commission through Gramiladari. Subsequently, when it comes to casting the vote, voters can vote for their preferred candidates by marking only a cross or number 1 in the box against the candidate's name. The voters are also allowed to mark their second and third preference respectively. The Elections Commission anyhow stresses that marking preferences are not mandatory. Transparency International Sri Lanka urges the Elections Commission of Sri Lanka to take legal actions against those who have committed violations against public property in the wave of tomorrow's presidential poll, since the Article 104 of the Constitution empowers the Commission to take legal action against it. Hence, these claims were made by TISL during a media briefing held yesterday.
We strongly urge the Election Commission to initiate legal action after the election is concluded on those who have violated election laws, especially under Article 104 GG in the Constitution. The Election Commission does have the power to prosecute those who have violated election laws, and we urge the Election Commission to really use this provision because we do have at least 2 more elections coming up in the next year, and it is only through legal actions that we can deter and prevent these violations taking place. So it is really important that our complaints are also not filed into a cupboard somewhere and forgotten about, but they are actually that they are used for legal action thereafter.
The Ministry of Transport informs that expressway bus fare will be reduced by 10 to 20 rupees with effect from midnight today. This was informed by the Ministry of Transport and Civil Aviation Arjuna Ranathanga at a media briefing held at the Ministry today.
I think 8th of November, by a special gazette, Honorable Kabir Hashim has reduced the highway charges, and by doing that we have requested the private bus associations to try and consider reducing price on a ticket. And I'm glad to say that all the associations have agreed to reduce the ticket price by 10 rupees and 20 rupees. If I give an example, from Mahakumburu to Gaul, normal price was 1200, now it has come down to 700. And for a passenger, it was 420, now it has come down to 410. Likewise, all the other routes, they have agreed to cut down on the price by 10 to 20 rupees. And from 12 o'clock tonight, we are going to implement this.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation yesterday announced that the overflying charges on aircraft flying through the country's airspace will be increased for the first time in 38 years. Thus, the Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation, Arjuna Ranatunga, stated that overflying charges will be increased up to 57% and that under the previous charges, the country's annual collection was about 7.8 million US dollars, and with the planned rate, Sri Lanka will receive around 12 million US dollars. Thus, reiterating on the increase of the overflying charges, Minister Ranatunga also stressed that no whatsoever plans to increase the prices of air tickets.
No, there were articles appeared saying that the air ticket prices will go up. It will not happen because all these prices will be not related to travel to Sri Lanka or travel away from Sri Lanka. These aircrafts are going over Sri Lankan airspace. So no effect will be there for any passenger on traveling.
Finance Minister Mangala Samarira says that the price of flour cannot be increased without the consent from the Cost of Living Committee and the Consumer Affairs Authority. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Economic Reforms and Public Distribution also announced that no decision had been taken to increase the price of wheat flour. A news was spread saying that the Prima company had decided to increase the price of wheat flour by 8 rupees and 50 cents with effect from midnight yesterday. With the spreading information, the Bakery Owners Association announced that they have to increase the price of all their products. However, the Consumer Affairs Authority announced that it did not approve the Prima company for an increase in wheat flour price. It also said that it will also take severe actions against the traders who sold wheat flour at an increased price. Meanwhile, Finance Minister Mangala Samaravira in a Twitter message said the company can't make such a decision alone and it must obtain the approval from the Cost of Living Committee appointed by the Cabinet of Ministers and the Consumer Affairs Authority. Meanwhile, the Secretary to the Ministry of Economic Reforms and Public Distribution, Chandani Vijayawardena, issuing a statement to the media, said that the Prima Ceylon Private Limited informed her that the company had not taken a decision for any price changes. Stay tuned for more news right after this commercial break. Welcome back after the break. Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau Chairman Kishu Gomez stresses that merchandise will not be developed by the mere standards of the product and that the marketing or promotion of the relevant product is also vital. Thus, Kishu Gomez shared his expertise addressing a recent conference organized by the Macquarie Business Management Consultant Company on uplifting the corporate image.
So, in our culture, promoting yourself, marketing yourself, trying to let people know who you are is perceived to be a bad thing. Culturally, religiously, but they are all misnomers, misconceptions. And if the marketing organizations thought this way, no marketing organization would have been able to create the brands they're being able to create. I should get what I deserve rather. If the product is super quality, you should be able to sell if this argument is right. We know that just having a good quality product is not enough and you've got to have a brand.
The immediate past chairman of the Employees Federation of Ceylon, Suresh Shah, highlights that the increased efforts for trade liberalization by the developing world is a key shift in the era of globalization. Delivering the keynote addressing at the symposium titled An Agenda for Change, organized by the EFC, Suresh Shah stressed few more key changes in the globalized context.
So this is going to be one significant change in globalization. It will be data in the form of video, in the form of search, in the form of information, in the form of intra-company information being exchanged cross-border that will not replace goods and services trade, but will add to goods and services trade. The second big shift in globalization will come with India and China and the developing world pushing for greater liberalization in trade so that those countries can also scale the ladder of prosperity. Now, I'm aware that countries like US and also Britain are becoming more nationalistic, but nevertheless, as we see, for example, in Brexit and the trade wars between the US and China. But nevertheless, the process of globalization will not reduce in any way because countries need to move up the ladder of prosperity.
Subsequently, he went on to share his expertise on changes that have taken place in relation to the competition in the working places.
And finally, from the global scene, and also from the Sri Lankan context, competition will come from the most surprising of places. And let me give you some examples on this. Think of Airbnb. Now, how many executives working in a Sheraton or working in a Hilton or working in a Marriott would have thought that their competition would come from an organization that does not own a single hotel room? Not a single. But that's where the competition came from. And today, the competition for the automobile industry is not coming from a Toyota, it's not coming from a Volkswagen, it's not coming from a Mercedes-Benz, but it's coming from Google. Why? Because of automated vehicles. And in the Sri Lankan context, there's this fast food chain that very recently, it's a well-reputed chain, that very recently has lost about 30 to 40% of its revenue. And where do you think the competition has come from? Not from another fast food chain. It's come from Uber Eats. So competition is coming from sources that we simply cannot anticipate at this moment. So are our organizations ready to face such competition? Are we thinking on those lines?
And now, a review on the stock performances for the past week and a stock forecast for the coming week will be brought to you by a subject expert at First Capital Holdings.
The market had a mixed reaction this week with the week being a short week and also it being the last week before the all-important presidential election. A heavy turnover was witnessed on the first day, that was Wednesday, with large parcel trades taking place with turnover surpassing the 2 billion rupee mark. All the large parcel trades that took place were in JKH, which represented heavy foreign selling on that day. On the other 2 days, turnover levels were moderate with low level of foreign activity. Retail and high net worth activity slowed down as the week progressed, with investors adopting a more of a wait and see approach. Investor reaction to the good results that were released were also pretty low during the week. With the end of the mostly anticipated presidential election, we expect a bit of a profit taking in the market. With selected construction-related counters booming up to the presidential election may take a bit of a breather as the election fever trims down and also the market consolidating with some profit taking. We expect the market to have a heavy initial reaction and then slow down as the week progresses. With Friday being the last day for releasing earnings as well, no earnings led reactions are likely to take place in the upcoming week. Foreign activity, however, may tend to pick up with the completion of the election.
Stay tuned for stock updates right after this commercial break. Welcome back. Trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a positive note today. The all-share price index gained 42.95 points to close at 6,023.02, and the S&P SL20 gained 21.74 points to close at 2,986.52. The turnover was 917 million rupees and over 59 million shares were traded. Up next are forex rates. And that's all news for today. Do join us tomorrow with Biz Roundup. Until then, take care, good night.